They say you should never pick up strangers during a snowstorm. But I didn't listen, and what I brought into my car wasn't human. Before I tell you what happened, hit that subscribe button. You shouldn't have to face this story alone. It was the kind of blizzard that makes you question if the world outside still exists. A white haze so thick, my high beams barely cut through the falling snow. I'd been driving for hours, trying to get home after a last-minute work trip. The highway was deserted, just the occasional overturned sign or the black silhouette of a tree bent under the weight of the snow. Rounding a sharp curve, my headlights caught it, a figure standing on the shoulder waving frantically. Hunched against the wind, coat soaked, hood covering its face, thumb out in that universal gesture of desperation. My first thought was caution. The rational voice in my head was screaming at me not to stop, not tonight, not in this storm. But something else overrode that instinct, the part of me that felt obligated to help, to prove that kindness still exists. So I slowed down, skidding a little on the ice, and pulled over just a few feet ahead. The figure stepped closer, snow crunching under boots that seemed too large, too deliberate. When it opened its mouth to speak, there was no sound. Just a faint, rasping noise, like wind passing through a hollow tube. Despite the eerie silence, I opened the door and gestured for it to get in. As soon as the passenger door closed, the storm seemed to intensify. Snowflakes pounded against the windows like tiny nails. I glanced at my passenger. Something was off. Its face was too pale, too gray. Its eyes were hidden in shadow, yet I could feel them, penetrating, studying me, memorizing every detail. I tried to start a conversation, just some small talk to break the tension. "Where are you headed?" I asked. It didn't answer, not a single word. It just sat there, hands resting on its knees, perfectly still, perfectly silent. I noticed the air inside the car was getting colder with each passing minute. The warmth from the heater was just, evaporating. Frost started creeping along the edges of the windows, even with the heat blasting. A deep sense of unease started gnawing at the back of my skull, whispering that something was very, very wrong. But I kept driving, telling myself it was just the storm, the fatigue, my imagination playing tricks on me. Yet the deeper we went into the blizzard, the more that feeling of being watched intensified. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. Not outside, but inside the car. A shadow flickered along the dashboard, stretching and twisting in impossible ways, like liquid darkness with a mind of its own. When I dared to look directly at my passenger, its face had shifted, just slightly. The eyes were now wide and glinting with a faint, unnatural light. I realized with a jolt of horror that it had never been human. The body I'd allowed into my car was just a vessel, a shape mimicking humanity, learning, adapting, observing me. My pulse spiked. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight the leather cut into my palms. I tried to calm myself, to rationalize. The storm is playing tricks on me. The isolation is making me paranoid. But the air was thick now, cold and heavy, pressing down on my chest as if it had weight. Every glance at the rearview mirror revealed subtle changes. The shadows inside the car were lengthening, bending. The reflection of the hitchhiker's face was distorting in impossible ways, lips stretching, eyes widening unnaturally. I found I couldn't look away. It felt like my gaze was feeding it, empowering it. The car itself felt like it was resisting me. The steering wheel grew heavy, the pedals sluggish. It was as though the snow outside was no longer the only danger. Something had wrapped itself around my vehicle, its tendrils wrapping around my mind, my attention, my will. When I tried to speak again, my voice sounded hollow, swallowed by the storm. The hitchhiker finally leaned toward me, slow and deliberate. Its breath, or what I imagined was its breath, fogged the inside of the car. The fog swirled into shapes, faces I could almost recognize but never fully place. Familiar and wrong all at once. I realized the snowstorm wasn't just weather. It was a veil, a cover for this thing to move in ways I couldn't track, slipping into corners, behind mirrors, crawling over surfaces like liquid shadow. In a panic, I slammed on the brakes. A fallen tree was lying across the highway. The hitchhiker smiled, its face stretching unnaturally wide. Its teeth were too long, too many, glinting faintly in the weak light of my headlights. I swear I saw the frost on the window turn into patterns, symbols that moved like they were alive, crawling slowly across the glass toward me. When I looked back, its hand impossibly long and thin pressed against the window. The fingers splayed out, bending in directions a human hand could never bend. A surge of instinctive terror so strong I screamed. My heart hammered against my ribs, my mind screaming to get away. But the car wouldn't respond. The shadows inside the car now reached for me, a thin, writhing mass growing from the hitchhiker's body, pressing against the seats, the roof, filling the vehicle with a darkness that smelled faintly of snow and decay. I understood with absolute clarity that it didn't just want a ride, it wanted me. It wanted my attention, my life. As I fumbled for my phone to call for help, it leaned even closer, its face almost touching mine. A whisper, not of sound, but a vibration inside my skull, said, "Stay, you belong." We belong. I felt my resolve weakening. The cold, the darkness, the storm outside, the presence inside, it was all pressing together, blending until I couldn't tell reality from hallucination. Then a sudden instinct, pure panic, drove me to jerk the wheel violently. The car spun, sliding over the ice, snow spraying in every direction. The hitchhiker shrieked, not a human sound, but a noise that crawled into my ears and rattled my bones. The car finally hit a snowdrift that stopped us, buried but intact. I threw open the door and scrambled out into the storm. The cold hit me like fire. I ran, my feet breaking through deep drifts, the wind lashing my face, not daring to look back. When I finally turned my head, the car was there, empty. The hitchhiker was gone, swallowed by the storm. I thought it was over. I thought I had escaped. Hours later, I made it home. Snow melted on the floor, doors locked, lights on. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the living room window. And there it was. Outside, standing in the swirling snow, watching me, waiting. A smile curled across its impossible face. I realized with dread that blizzards aren't just storms. They're portals, they're invitations, and some hitchhikers are never truly gone. Every time I drive in the snow now, I check the shoulders, the curves, and the empty roads, but I never stop. I never pick up anyone. And I'm warning anyone who will listen, the storm can carry more than snow. If you survived this story, comment below. And remember, never ever pick up strangers in a blizzard. Some rides never end. Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there.